Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 3 of the class. Let's start going here. So, I am going to go over the syllabus real quick here for the start of this particular video. Some things I wanted to discuss real quick is specifically that we should have reflection 3 turned in by today. You've had reflection 1, reflection 2, reflection 3. That was the third round of articles you have to read. And then reflection 4 is due next week. And that is the last round of articles you have to read. And then finally, our final presentation is due on the last class here with big whopping 40 points. And I did want to talk about the final project a little bit here real quick. So let's go to our assignments. And under assignments, you should see the final project assignment. And there's the directions for the final project. So remember that the final project for class is going to be a presentation. I want a 10 to 15 minute PowerPoint on what measures you took to understand 2 of your students' learning challenges and what strategies you took to understand their challenges and meet those needs in the classroom setting. 1 student should be an ELL learner. And these are the required sessions. Our exit tickets we've been doing. Your reflections have been your exit tickets. But these parts here are where you're going to have a slide dedicated to your 2 focus students and identify their developmental areas of need. Second slide is going to be the initial lesson plan. Third slide is going to be developing a draft lesson plan that includes developmentally driven accommodation. And then create a PowerPoint that incorporates the portions of your final project. So you should have a slide. Basically, what I'm telling you is you should have a slide that focuses on this information. A slide that obviously develop a draft lesson plan, develop an initial lesson plan. This is going to be one and the same for a final lesson plan. And then you're going to have some slides discussing disabilities and whatnot. This is the rough idea of what we're looking at. Okay, so it's going to be a 10 to 15 minute presentation. Should have this information in it. And, oh, that's right, there was another page as well. So all this other information as well. And then you're going to present the outcome in the PowerPoint format for class on the last class. Okay? So just wanted to have a quick clarification there that this is where all that information is found for your final project. And it's right there. And this is something I'm going to go over in class as well when we get into it. One of the other things I wanted to point out under modules is I did add a new resource. Here's your articles you're reading, right? Here's for the first reflection, for the second reflection, for the third reflection, and then for the fourth reflection. Here, for class 3, we are going to have to do some reading, okay? So I made copies of the big book that I said was a supplemental reading material. And I downloaded chapters 8 and 10 down here. My app that I was using for this only allowed me to do 25 pages at a time. So this is chapter 8, 25 pages, and then another, I think it was 15 to 20 pages here. Same here, same here. All right. So for class today, we are going to do some reading. So just want to throw that out there. I'm hoping I have read my copies that I made of this, and it came out pretty good. But as you'll see after it loads, you know, it's some of the pages are a little wonky. You know, I did as best as I could. I apologize if this is messing people up a little bit, but you can zoom in and such. You should be able to zoom in and such for your work. I don't know why I did that. Or that for that matter. Anywho, well, that's not encouraging. Let's try that again. Again, this is my rough draft. Please bear along with me here when I do this. Boop-a-doo. Let's see what happens. There we go. So you'll see the pages are a little wonky on it, but it's pretty legible, so people should be able to read that. So I've read through the pages myself. I'll tell you right now, Chapter 10, Part 1 here. Section 10.2 was probably my favorite section to read. It has a lot to do with what I work with, specifically emotional behavioral disorder, conduct disorder. A lot of talk about how victims and bullying is in there. It's something I really felt strongly about while reading in regards to my own practices. But anyway, I digress. That resource is here. And let's go ahead and go into our slides. So here's the slides. And I'm going to start the slideshow, and let's start. So we're in session 3. Today we are looking at attachment and personality. So we're looking at all those keywords, and then self-control and discipline. Self-control, effective discipline, teaching self-control, what parenting style tells us. There are instructional routines, those past 2 slides we've talked about. Your session objectives. Candidates will demonstrate an understanding of attachment and personality through discussion and activities by expanding on how attachment and personality influence a child's ability to be successful in the classroom environment. Demonstrating an understanding of students' self-control and discipline through discussion and activities by identifying appropriate methods of self-regulation and behaviors and the impact they can have on the classroom. This will help prepare candidates for dealing with discipline issues and help students learn methods to control their emotions. For the warm-up today, reflecting on what we discussed in class last week, information processing, memory, problem solving, executive functioning. How do these impact a student's ability to progress in the academic environment? What does a student with one of these deficits look like? Was there a time this week when that topic resonated with you regarding a student in your classroom? If so, what was it? And you'll see I have 2 links here in this particular slide. This first link takes us to an understood article talking about the 3 areas of executive functioning. And the big things we're looking at are working memory, cognitive flexibility, and inhibitory control. Okay? What it is for working memory, the ability to keep information in mind and then use it in some way. For cognitive flexibility, the ability to think about something in more than one way. And then inhibitory control, the ability to ignore distractions and resist temptation. Everybody here probably knows right off the top of their head, maybe a couple of students that they can think of who might have executive functioning deficits. How about for us? What am I going to do in the classroom for us? Well, I got this fun little cartoon of executive functioning around the clock. Meet Josh, a 6th grader who struggles with executive function. This is a day in his life. 7 a.m. Arg! Josh knows that he has forgotten something. Ah, that's it. His cleats for today's game. He sprints back inside the house to get them and leaves his backpack in the kitchen. He walks right past that checklist his mom made to help him remember what he needs for school. But it's too late. The bus is here and about to pull away. He's going to miss it again. Executive function area, organization. We have a kid here who forgets things even when a checklist is put there by his mom on his refrigerator. And he's going to miss the bus again. It won't be the first time he's missed that bus. He has problems organizing himself to get on the bus for school. And as we can see, there are other little cartoons here about Josh's life that we will be going on as a group in regards to this in class. It's a fun little activity. I'm thinking we'll do like 2 or 3 of those in class, and then I'm going to have a quick read along with this particular session, Section 11, Executive Functioning and Learning. The 5 areas of executive functions. Academic success in our 21st century schools is increasingly linked with children's mastery of a wide range of skills that rely on their use of executive function strategies. The crucial role of executive function processes begins in the preschool years and increases a student's progress through middle and high school when they're expected to master complex skills that involve summarizing, note-taking, and writing. Each of the 5 areas of executive functions will be explored in more detail in the chapters that follow. And this came from a particular book. But organizing, prioritizing, shifting, thinking, flexibility, accessing working memory, self-monitoring, self-checking. So this one said 5. This one said 3. It's all fairly, organizing, prioritizing, that I would put that in the same category. Shifting, thinking, flexibility, accessing working memory, self-monitoring, self-checking. Those can be boxed up in one of these other ones, but they kind of just break it down a little more here. So just something to think about. So for class, we will go over that executive functioning, and I'll point this out for people who might want something for another thing. Anywho, for this one, I'll do a waterfall. Why is attachment important, and how will it affect a student in life and in the classroom? And we'll have a little resource here. In regards to the 5 protective factors for resilient families. What are protective factors? The 5 protective factors is a research-based framework which identifies 5 of the most important aspects proven to minimize adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, by establishing safe and emotionally stable homes. And we see those 5 factors here: resilience, social connection, knowledge of parenting and child development, social and emotional competence of children, and concrete supports. So these are the things that children need in order to be part of a resilient family, okay? And to prevent abuse and protect children as well. So there's a nice little website here in regards to this. I will point this out. And that is a very handy-dandy tool to use for the classroom. Got lots of videos. It has discussions. I believe there's a list of volunteers, events, things like that here. If you are interested in donating or choosing to help this particular organization. Anywho, going on to my slides again. It keeps doing that for some reason. Don't know why. Anyway, so we'll do a little waterfall for this. I'm expecting answers like to help strengthen children's emotional attachment to peers and students, in order to help guide students in their abilities to regulate their control emotionally, things like that. I'd expect to see answers like that in regards to this. And now that I think about it, I think I might have students, no, I'll just point this out. Another waterfall part: how can personality and temperament be a protective factor for a student? So this is where we can kind of talk about things like fight or flight response, how some students might be surly if they think that somebody's going to hurt them, how some students might cower if someone is bullying them, things like that. We can talk about peer pressure, lots of different things in regards to this. And when we get into the main reading of the books, there's going to be that one section I discussed actually is going to have a lot to talk about with that, with chapter 10 part 2. So anywho, discussion: parenting style video. So how does understanding parenting style provide insight into a student? What can candidates do to support students who come from parents who are indifferent, indulgent, or authoritarian? What is effective discipline, and how can you apply it in your classroom? So those are the 3 questions I want people to think about while we are watching the parenting style video.
Just want you to know, if you need anything, don't be shy, okay? There are no rules in this house. I'm not like a regular mom. I'm a cool mom. Right, Regina?
Please stop talking.
Okay.
This is your room? It was my parents' room, but I made them trade me.
Permissive parents are generally characterized by indulgent behavior and a parenting style that is high in nurture but low in expectations. Children of permissive parents generally have a lack of a sense of personal achievement and confidence, The most common pair of parenting styles is two permissive parents.
Excuse me, darling, I'm Reese Bobby. I'm here for career day with my son, Ricky.
Dad!
Hey there, boy! Man, you got big. How long's it been? 3-4 months?
10 years.
10 years. Man, I got to lay off the peyote.
Dad!
Don't listen to these people, Ricky. You're a winner. You got the gift. Always remember, if you ain't first, you're last.
Well, you told me that day at school for career day. You came in, you said, if you ain't first, you're last.
Oh, hell, Ricky, I was high when I said that. But that doesn't make any sense at all.
Uninvolved parenting is the second most common parenting style and can result in serious negative effects in children, such as attention seeking, insecurity, and depression. This parenting style is low in nurture and expectations and is characterized by apathy and distant involvement in the children's lives, where the parents have no concern for what their children are doing and are rarely even aware of what's going on in their lives.
Yep, he thought he could sneak out.
So, what now, Ho Chi Minh?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Playtime is over. Your friends are no longer allowed in the house.
Wait, what?
No, we'll talk about it in the morning.
Fine. We'll talk about it in the morning. We'll talk about how your friends are no longer allowed in the house.
Authoritarian parenting is characterized by little nurturance but high expectations. Punishments are often given with little or no explanation. This parenting style results in feelings of inferiority throughout the child's teen years. Their fear of failure impacts much of their decision-making, resulting in low self-esteem.
DJ, you go on ahead. Steph's a little nervous about her first day at school. I'll make sure she gets there. Sweetheart, don't you want to go to school and be smart?
I'll stay home and watch public television.
I love how Full House is supposed to be the one that shows the perfect in parenting style. I'm going to stop it there, but we will watch the whole thing when we're in class. So for this particular section, what I am going to be asking people, I asked them before, is these three questions. How does understanding parenting style provide insight into a student? And I'll ask for some answers on that. I myself think of a student I currently have inside my classroom who has a hard time putting away his cell phone or turning it in. And I've actually had multiple calls with the parent in regards to having the cell phone possibly stay home. And guess what shows up at school every day? A cell phone. So I kind of think of the indulgent family parenting style there and how that provides insight for myself. But I've definitely seen other styles as well, authoritarian and indifferent, of course. And as someone who works with students who have emotional and behavioral challenges, there's a whole lot of different things that can be negative associated with that with my own students. If I have a student who, say, comes to school in dirty clothing, or might have incontinence, or may smell, or just general neglect, you can tell that the parents don't care about how the kid presents himself. I've definitely seen that in a couple of my students over the course of my lifetime. And that's a tough one. Indulgent, I gave an example of that. Authoritarian, we can all think of all the negatives that can be associated with that in regards to physical abuse that might happen for a student. What about effective discipline, and how can you apply it in your classroom? That's a tricky question for myself. What kind of things can you do in your classroom to discipline students? Is discipline even the right word? I usually like to say consequence, because there's always consequences for actions that you take in life. And that's what I usually say in my classroom. I don't like to say that I'm disciplining or saying that somebody's bad or putting a negative connotation on them. That's usually my tack on it. But for this particular thing, what kind of effective consequences can we apply to in the classroom is how I would think about for this one. There are two big reading portions for this particular session. Today, I'm going to break people into groups, and one group's going to read chapter 8.1, another's going to read chapter 8.2, and another one's going to read chapter 8.3. And what you're going to do is you're going to read your required portion, and then create a What I Learned board with your fellow partners using Google Slides. When I close the breakout rooms, prepare to show and tell to the group what your team learned in the chapter you read. Feel free to use this totally cool newspaper template should you want some inspiration for your presentation. And it's nothing totally cool. It's just a quick little what have I learned newspaper thing if you wanted to get an idea of what I would look for a Google slide and a what I learned board. So, extra, read all about it. Maybe talk, and in the chapter of the book that we're reading, it might talk about something like executive functioning. This is what working memory is. It's pretty simple, nothing too crazy. I'm sure everybody has done something like that, a show and tell, what have I learned board kind of thing. And that's what we're going to do for chapter 8. And we're going to do the same thing for chapter 10 as well. And there is some amount of reading that you're always going to be asked to do for classes. And I felt this was a good way to do it for getting some of the deeper ideas here, as opposed to having you all read the book on your own at home or something like that, or making these copies and saying you all have to read individually at home. So that was kind of my thinking here in creating this particular part of the lesson. You do get to win a fabulous prize afterwards, if you do well. Wheel of Pie spin in the Thanksgiving. Who doesn't like a good lemon meringue pie on Thanksgiving? It wasn't my first choice of what I had. I definitely had a pumpkin and pecan pie myself, but anyway, I digress. That's going to be the fabulous prize people win for completing this particular assignment. After that, we have our reflections and then our exit ticket. So kind of a quick class as far as for me to talk, but I will point out that this assignment is probably going to take anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, and same with that. And then this should take about 15 minutes, 5, another 15. So it's going to be about an hour and 15, hour 30, which means that you're going to have a lot of time to do the end of the reflection. And it's also going to give you a lot of time to do maybe some of the final project as well. And if you're wanting to pick my brain or anything like that, we can do that as well. Anywho, that's the end of that particular video, and that's all I'm going to say.